Am I the a-hole for making my brother's wedding reception about me? Plus updates. Original post. I, 25 female, I'm a bridesmaid to the fiancé, 30 female, of my older brother, 31 male. She and I aren't particularly close, but I don't dislike her, and I suspect she asked me just because I'm a brother's sister. I of course agreed, and I was even fine with her putting me in whatever style she wanted, so long as it didn't involve me cutting/dyeing my hair, any major changes. It's not my day, and I can suck up an ugly dress and act like it's gorgeous if that makes her happy. The issue, however, is that I am wheelchair bound. I know that the wedding venue is fine for me as is our local church, totally accessible. So all good. It's the venue being used for the reception that worries me. I asked her where the reception was going to be and if it was accessible for me and had an accessible bathroom. Just covering my bases. She did get back to me, so I figured she was busy, so left it a week or so before chasing her up again to re-ask. She told me she wasn't sure, so I asked where it was and she told me. I ended up looking up the building and my heart sank. It is an old building, not accessible at all for me, and no bathrooms I could feasibly use either. I told her this, and she got very upset, saying my brother had told her that he'd cover the cost, and she should just pick whatever she loved, and that she loved this. She then went on to suggest that we could just have someone carry me into the building, and my family or the other bridesmaids could help me use the bathroom when needed, which the very idea mortified me. I'm not about to agree to being carried in and needing help to go to the bathroom. So I ended up giving her two options. If she wanted me at the reception, she needed to pick somewhere that was accessible. If she didn't pick somewhere accessible, then I'd of course still be her bridesmaid at the wedding, but I'd have to skip the reception. She got upset at this as she feels like everyone, especially my family, will notice my absence and question it. It'll make her look bad. She then told me I was making this about me, which wasn't fair when it was her day. I won't lie, at this point I was enraged. I wanted to tell my brother to let him sort this out, but I wasn't about to start a rift between them over this, and I pointed out to her that yes, this was her day, and I had no intention of making it about me. However, by marrying my brother, she was joining our family, and she needed to realize that she was not as sensitive as she thought she was. And suggesting that I be carried into the building and aided going to the bathroom was downright insulting. This led to a larger fight, and she told me if my brother didn't already know I was her bridesmaid, that she'd not want me to be it anymore. I called it quits at this point, and told her she had my two options, and it was up to her which one she wanted. Am I the a-hole here? I don't feel like asking for the minimum accessibility is a lot, but maybe I'm too upset by the situation and her suggestions to see it clearly. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the a-hole, but I don't know why you wouldn't just tell your brother that you are sorry but you won't be able to attend a reception because the location isn't accessible. Give him a chance to make this right, in case he truly doesn't appreciate how inaccessible the reception location is. If I sit the reception out, I will be telling him that don't worry. However, she picked out the reception venue herself it seems, so he likely has no idea it's not accessible at all. I wanted to give her a chance to fix it before possibly starting a fight between them, which I really don't want to do. It doesn't sound like she has any desire to fix the situation. Given how far out in advance venues are booked, you may want to bring this up to your brother sooner rather than later. Normal people consider their future in-laws. This one does not. Might enlighten your brother. Not the a-hole. She was completely out of line to ignore your requests for information about accessibility, especially given that you are going to be part of her new family and her bridal party. This is on her. You asked early, she ignored you. She can have the venue she wants, and you are not stopping her. But she has no grounds to demand you attend at a venue that doesn't accommodate you. To be honest, I know that you don't want to get your brother involved, but I think it might be a good idea before this gets too out of hand. Don't tear her apart, but just be very gracious. I am so excited to be in your wedding, but it looks like the reception is going to be off the table for me due to the venue being inaccessible. Also, kind of confused why your brother didn't make it abundantly clear to her that each venue needed to be wheelchair accessible when he's lived with you your whole life. I hope he's not often that inconsiderate either. This isn't making her wedding about you. This is you simply declining an invitation that doesn't actually include you. She should have known better, and so should your brother. That's a good idea. I may have to talk to him about this. He is not at all inconsiderate. which is why I've been hesitant to get him involved, as I know with most people he'd get angry over this, and I don't want to start a fight with him. He likely assumed it was obvious that any venue needed to be wheelchair accessible. If I were him, I'd want to know if my fiancé was treating my disabled sister this way. Now for the first update. Hi everyone, here's an update to the situation. As many of you suggested, I checked in with my brother and told him what was going on. But I found out that the reason he'd left the reception to her was they'd made an agreement with him covering the ceremony and should cover the reception. We're Catholic, so we cared more about the religious side of the event, while she cared more about the reception/party, as she's not religious, which isn't a bad thing, just different. I showed him the texts and explained what had happened, and he was angry at her suggestion I be carried into the building and assisted in going to the bathroom. And after only a quick search of the venue she'd picked, he could also see it wouldn't work out for me and promised he'd resolve this and have a talk with her. He was annoyed at me for not bringing this to his attention sooner and told me I shouldn't worry about his feelings over this. The best part of all of this, the venue isn't even booked yet. He had assumed she'd picked out somewhere accessible, but has admitted that he should have ensured that and not thought it a given. So he has told me he'll see it's changed, and if it isn't, they have a bigger problem on their hands. The part that really got him though was the admission that she didn't want me as her bridesmaid if he didn't already know. And he told me that in that case, he didn't want me being her bridesmaid and instead wanted me to be his groomswoman, which I agreed to. I've yet to hear back from him on what's happening, so I can only wait and see. I'll update further when I know more. Now for the full update 11 days later. Sorry for the late update. A lot has been going on behind the scenes, and I've been spending time with my brother in the aftermath, so I have been busy. My brother's now ex-partner refused to reach a compromise on the reception venue, despite days of arguments between the two of them, and apparently even demanded to know what mattered more to him, her having her dream reception or me being there, and she didn't like his answer to that question at all. Likewise, he was disgusted with her attitude, and apparently this wasn't the only red flag, just the biggest one he'd been unable to overlook. For instance, she kept insisting on getting our mother's engagement ring early, which my brother didn't cave on, thank God. My brother is the oldest child, so was promised our mother's engagement ring that has been in the family for generations. And he made it clear to her that she'd get it once they were officially married, and got her a cheap placeholder until then, but she'd apparently been kicking up a fuss about it every so often, trying to get him to cave. I was totally unaware of this until he told me. My brother apparently told her he loved her and wanted to work through this with her, but they needed serious couples therapy before he'd go ahead with the wedding, even suggesting that I tag along for a family's therapy appointment to get to the root of her apparent problem with me, which she didn't take well, and told him the wedding was off. They were breaking up, which he told her that was her decision and he wouldn't fight her on it. So yeah, he's been hanging out at mine a lot, and I felt incredibly guilty over this mess. But he won't hear any apologies from me on it, saying it's better this came to a head now. He's also wanting to take me and our parents on a family holiday with the money he was going to use for the wedding, so he has something to look forward to. I don't want to say we're well rid of her, as I do think she had some issues that my brother was right they'd have needed to resolve in therapy to become a healthy couple, as she seemed to think there was some kind of competition for his affection going on. Anyway, that's where things are right now. I just thought I'd let you all know, as I know many of you were wondering about the aftermath. And there's the swift sound of a bullet being dodged. Yikes. People who think they're in a competition with the siblings are so gross. Do they ever think about what they're actually saying with this? I also would not trust them to not try and compete with their own children. OP is lucky to have a brother who is willing to stick up for her like this. It should be normal, but I read this sub a lot, so... Right? OP may not realize it, but she helped her brother dodge a near-do-well proverbial tempest of a marriage. I'm so glad that he hadn't already given her the family heirloom ring. But the fact that he chose not to give it to her until they were married speaks volumes about how much he actually trusted his ex. I don't understand heirloom engagement rings. His mother was still wearing it. I would not like someone asking me to take my ring off and give it away at all. I'm shocked, I tell you. Shocked to see that she's now the ex. Oh wait, I meant to say I am not shocked at all. Very happy her brother won't be miserable for the rest of his life. Given AITA, I'm always holding my breath a little. It was clear this was a huge red flag. I always feel bad when the people making these posts say that they don't want to cause a fight by bringing attention to something horrible being done to them. Because most of the time when they say this, they are not the ones causing the problems. Whatever the other person did to warrant a conversation being had with outside people is what caused the problem. But they are used to trying to fit in and not be the issue. Opie loves her brother and tries to deal with it without making brother step in. Unfortunately, a lot of people have the mindset that it's the complainer causing the problem. If you could just suck it up like the rest of us. Of course, these people are rarely receptive to the argument that there wouldn't be a problem at all if this person wasn't wronging me. So, next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law she gave up her family and it's her fault she's alone? My husband and I have been married for 6 years. At least 5 of those have been almost no contact with his mother. I don't know the whole story, but his dad passed away when he was young and his mom remarried a man who was horribly abusive to him, up until he moved out. He tried to tell his mother for years, but she just wouldn't believe it. It got to the point that for his own well-being, he just couldn't be around her anymore. This week, after years of silence, she shows up at our doorstep. She said she'd try to call, but we have her blocked, so obviously it didn't go through. She was in tears and started crying about how her husband had trashed her house and left her, and that she realized her son was telling the truth. How she didn't have anyone, all that crap. She begged to talk to my husband. I said that she had some freaking nerve coming to our house to cry after throwing her son to the side for a disgusting predator, until that stopped working for her. I said she made her bed. Now is the time to lay in it, and it wasn't going to be in my house. She was almost hysterical when she left, but her coming to the door put my husband in a panic attack that he's been too depressed to get out of bed since. I really don't care for that woman, but when I replay it in my head, I feel absolutely terrible. Berating someone in tears never feels good, and now I think I might have just made things worse. Should I have done something different? Was that an a-hole move? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. She needed to be told. She didn't care when it was happening to her son, but oh, it's the end of the world when it happened to her. Good for you. Hold your head up high and keep looking after your husband. My high school boyfriend ended himself over his stepfather's maltreatment. Never laid a finger on the 4 boys he had with the boyfriend's mom, but beat the crap out of him for the crime of being born out of wedlock. I often wonder if she wised up and left him, but I doubt it. He'll be 30 years gone next June. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. At my wedding, my mother-in-law was bawling and saying she was so sorry she let his stepdad beat my husband. Could you have handled it differently? Sure. But what you did was primal and rightfully protective. Now, ask what your husband needs. I learned that no matter how terrible a parent treats a child, that now grown child still craves the approval from that parent. It was difficult for me to understand, so find out what he needs. That's what matters now. No, we don't crave the parental approval. My mom is very toxic, bossy, and it's her way or it's considered the wrong way. I just live my life and include her as little as possible in my girls' lives. She's like a cancer most of the time. Some people do crave that approval. It took 5 years of no contact with my judgmental narcissistic mother to fully shake that part of my psyche that she formed to crave her approval. Getting her voice out of my head was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, even though I knew for 15 plus years before our no contact period that she was awful. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not designing my cousin's wedding dress, even though I've designed everyone else's? So, I, 29 female, have designed all the wedding dresses for my cousins, siblings, and aunts for the past decade. When my eldest sister, 35 female, got engaged at 24, she asked me to design her dress, since I'm passionate about design and she always loved my style. Her dress was a knockout. Everyone loved it. And ever since whenever one of our relatives announces their engagement, they ask if I can design their dress for them. I've always said yes, because I absolutely love doing it. Just so much fun. On to the issue. My cousin, 23 female, is getting married next February and called me up to see when we could meet so she could share her ideas for a dress and I can start designing it. I did not like this cousin at all. Her parents spoiled her beyond rotten, but I decided to still meet with her though and see if anything has changed since she's now an adult. She immediately shows me some photos of wedding dresses by Sarah Burton and tells me she wants something exactly like the pictures. I tried to suggest a change in neckline or collar, and she shuts it down and tells me she wants exactly like that. I told her I would not be making her dress, as I love designing clothes that embody their wearer and suit them, not rip off other designers so she can look fancy in a knockoff. Some of my family, and especially her and her parents, are beyond upset and have been blowing up my phone because I've broken tradition and my baby cousin's heart, because she's been looking forward to having me make her wedding dress for years now. I feel kind of bad, but at the same time, she's taking the fun and bonding out of designing a wedding dress. If your cousin wants a specific dress, she should just buy the specific dress. The tradition was for you to design the dresses and sharing these moments of creation with your family members. But of course, her and her parents are upset. The sort of dress she wants costs a lot of money. Having you do it is much cheaper. I think it's time you break with the tradition, not the a-hole. The tradition also included asking Opie if she could design a dress for them, not deciding that Opie will do that, and just demanding an appointment for discussing details. Lol. The audacity. This wasn't a cousin feeling grateful about having a designer in the family, and how gracious it is for that designer to take time and energy out of their day to create a costume dress, and showing even a modicum of respect by asking. This is an entitled brat demanding a service she feels entitled to. What really bugs me is that, even if Opie sticks to their guns here, I doubt cousin will actually learn anything from this. They'll simply brush it off as a mean family member. Not the a-hole. She's not asking you to design a dress. She's asking you to help her save $1 on a designer dress. Besides, you can say no for any reason you want. Your family's not entitled to your efforts.